for the School District of the Chathams for Monday, January 11, 2021. In accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, PL 1975 announcement, I will announce that the New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend meetings of the public body at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the School District of the Chatham's Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted in the Board Administrative Offices, sent to the clerks of both the Chatham Borough and Chatham Township, the Library of the Chathams, the Chatham Courier, the Daily Record, the Star Ledger, and the TAP. Mr. Arnick. Ms. Ciccarelli, Ms. Clark, Ms. Kenny, Mr. Gilfillan, Mr. Ryan, here. Mr. Smith, Mr. Valenti, Ms. Weber, here. 6 present and accounted for. We have a quorum. If all those who can stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If I could ask Mr. Ryan, Ms. Weber, and Mr. Smith to remain standing, and if you could go ahead and state the oath so that we can swear you in as board members for the 3-year term that starts 2021 as a result of the unanimous selection in the November election.
So we'll just read this together?
Yep.
Okay, on 3. 1, 2, 3. I, Joe Weber, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same and to the governments established in the United States and this state under the authority of the people, so help me God. And the second half, I, Joe Weber, do solemnly swear that I possess the qualifications prescribed by law for the office of a member of the Board of Education, as I am not disqualified as a voter pursuant to RS 19-4-1, and that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform all the duties of that office according to the best of my abilities, so help me God.
Congratulations to all 3 of you, and
Thank you,
I'd
Peter.
say welcome back to the board, but I'm happy that you're all here again still.
Yeah.
All right. At this point, I'll take nominations for the slot of board president for the 2021 year.
I'd like to nominate Jill Critchley Weber for the position of president.
Any other interest? On that note, for Ms. Weber as president of the Board of Education, Mr. Arnick?
Yes.
Ms. Clark?
Yes.
Ms. Kenny? Ms. Kenny? Okay. Mr.
Thinking about it.
Mr. Ryan? Mr. Ryan? Yes. Mr. Smith? And Ms. Weber? Yes. Congratulations, Jill. I now pass the baton to you for the vice president.
Excellent. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate your confidence. Maybe it's just the pandemic talking that you want to go down this road again, but I appreciate your vote of confidence. So now I'm going to take nominations for the vice president position.
I nominate Matt Gilfillan.
I second that.
Any additional nominations for vice president for Matt in his absence? He's probably watching the game, prepping for the game. No additional nominations? Peter, would you take a vote on that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Excellent, thank you. So Peter, for now, we're going to go with this current standing committees. We'll talk about it during board business for a minute, and then at the next meeting, we'll probably have something, a draft for committees. But for now, we're going to keep the current committees. Okay. So again, thank you very much. This is a part of the program where we go back to the board's comments, and I rarely have comments, and I just wanted to say I've never looked forward to seeing a year end as much as I did 2020, and I'm looking forward to a better 2021, although we have to stay vigilant. There's light at the end of the tunnel. We just need to stay the course for a little while, and as soon as we can roll out the vaccines, we can get back to a new normal. So again, I thank you for your resilience, your patience, your hard work, for the teachers, the students, the parents. And if we could just beg your cooperation for a few more months, we will definitely get through this, and springtime will absolutely be better. So thank you, I appreciate it, and God welcome 2021. And just a quick announcement, if you've traveled over the holidays and you're still within that 10-day period, if you could watch the meeting from home, that would be great. If you're still in quarantine phase, if you could go watch from home, that would be fine. Okay, so that was my announcement there. Okay, those are my comments. So goodbye 2020, hello 2021, and over to you, Dr. LaSousa.
If I'm just going to interrupt
Yeah.
1 second, Jill, if we could just go back and do a motion for item Roman numeral 6, just to reaffirm all the reorg items in
Okay,
6.1 and 6.2.
okay. So could you make a motion, Michelle? Excellent. I'll second it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Duly noted, pass 6-0. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. I forgot about that. Okay, Mike, over to you, if you don't mind.
Thank you, Ms. Weber. Happy 2021. I welcome everyone back. Last week, obviously, we completed our first full week of virtual instruction in the district since last spring. So it's kind of amazing to reflect on what the school week looked like last week compared to April. And I think it's safe to say that we've made a lot of strides. We've gotten a little bit better at delivering instruction virtually, and overall last week was pretty smooth. We only had a couple of minor glitches. So it was good to get back on the horse today and have students in buildings. That also went off without too much of a hitch. And so we're back in session. Hoping we stay back in session. We continue to correspond with the departments of health, and our goal is to stay in session as long as we possibly can. The good news is that our nursing staff has begun the vaccination process. We've had several nurses already receive their first dose of the vaccine. Others are in line to do that, and we are waiting for further direction, if you will, over when the rest of our staff will open up in the 1B group. You probably know that New York opened up to all educators today, and we're hoping New Jersey follows fairly quickly. Once that happens, I'm sure there will be a process and a little bit of time to get everyone, all of our teachers, all of our staff, signed up and with appointments and a dose in their arms. And then, of course, there will be a few weeks in between the first dose and the second dose, but we see the first steps at least towards fortifying all the staff in the district. Staffing remains our most immediate challenge in terms of staying open on a day-to-day basis. Ms. Grant and our principals in particular have been working hard to ensure that we are as fully staffed as we can be, and that if we have a staff member who is either sick or quarantining due to exposure, or just recovering from having been sick over the break, that we're finding suitable replacements for them when we can, and finding coverage when we can't. Today, the governor also announced that graduation requirements would be suspended for the current seniors. They've had 2 years of disruption, unable to take a number of the statewide assessments that are required for graduation, so their graduation requirements will be suspended, similar to last year's students. And there was also relaxation of certification requirements for substitute teachers, which is a relief for many districts. I won't get into the nitty-gritty there, but basically if a staff member doesn't possess the proper certification for a particular job role, we're permitted to keep the staff member there so long as they possess a different teacher certification for a certain period of time. That time period will be extended, and it will remain a more flexible option for us until the health crisis is over. So those are two good things for us. And that's pretty much where we stand right at the moment. I think tomorrow is the day that Governor Murphy gives his State of the State address. We might have some hints about school funding and any other statewide issues that would affect us. If not, that will come at the end of February when he gives his budget address. So we're waiting to get a little more detail about funding, about the latest stimulus package and how that might affect us, and then further clarification or clarity into the whole vaccination process for school employees and whatever else the state might require of us for the balance of this year. So that's number one under my report. On number two is that we, of course, are behind the normal time frame of approving a calendar for next school year. That was due to all of the uncertainty caused by the pandemic. I included 3 sample calendars in your folders. I should have included a 4th because Lotta had mentioned to me a while back about having an option for a full week off in February with school in session on teacher convention days. So my thinking is if you looked at just calendar number 2 as an example and put in the days off on the February break after President's Day weekend, but then put school on for the 2 days in November, the 4th and 5th, which are slated for convention, and then extended the school year by a couple of days, it would make the difference up. But you can discuss this in board business. You can toss around ideas, think it through. I think realistically, if you discuss it tonight, our next board meeting is in 3 weeks on February 1. You could then adopt officially on February 1. The most important thing is probably to try to come to consensus about when you'd like the school year to begin, because that's the first date that probably matters most to families. And one calendar has the year beginning, I think, August 31st, another August 24th, and another one somewhere in between. Number 2, that is. So that's it for me.
Okay. Do folks want to talk about the calendar now or punt it to board business? What, Michelle? Board business is fine? Okay. So, okay, appears number 2 is kind of middle of the road, but then we'll look at another one. Okay, so we'll hold it off for a minute in board business, and we'll talk about that. Not to be voted on tonight, but with a goal of voting on it next meeting. Does anybody else have any questions for Dr. LaSousa?
Are we taking community input on the count? I don't know if this is working. Is it working?
Yeah,
Are we taking community input on the calendars like we have in the past?
I wasn't planning on that just because of how late it is, but
Okay.
we certainly, if you want us to, we could do that. We'd have to do it quickly.
I don't know that we have to. I mean,
Yeah,
I think in light of the year we've had, I think we need to just go to school.
They're not drastically different other than starting earlier. No, we're just so late. I would like to, though, try and get the next year calendar back on track so we can get that maybe finalized sometime in the spring, May, June
Yes.
timeframe for the following year. Because typically we have these in a lot earlier, but again, pandemic card, we got derailed, and we'll get back on track on that. Mike, just a quick question on the testing or the graduation requirements. I understand there's a pandemic and the state isn't moving as quickly. They were talking about redoing some of the state testing and some of the guidelines. Has that not moved at all forward? No, not at all. Okay. I didn't.
Karen says no. I do know that they're administering all the state assessments this spring, but there haven't been other alterations, I don't think yet, to what the state assessment platform and the menu of tests looks like.
Okay.
Part of that I read about that executive order is that there's a student growth, that the SGPs are, so if students do take tests, teachers will not be tagged to those scores for this year, nor will their data that they started with in the beginning of the year, in terms of evaluation, right? SGPs
Yes,
are-
the other item in the governor's order today was that student growth objectives would not factor into a final evaluation for teachers. Last year was similar. There were essentially the evaluation system mandated by the state they needed to suspend because of the way the year played out, and they're doing the same this year, it looks like.
The SEOs are still taking place, they're just not factoring into the
Correct.
evaluation? Okay. Or however they were taking place before. Okay. Any other questions for Mike on any of that? No? Okay, great. Peter, over to you for the construction update.
Sure, just briefly, on the middle school auditorium, the final items are just about completed. The rigging company will be back to make a few changes, so the rigging will be easy to use for the middle school students. Once this is completed, all the full and extensive testing will be done. So it'll be, Mr. Lawrence is eager to put it to the test and test the sound system and lights and everything else.
Hey, Doc, March is the timeframe where the warranty starts to give.
Should be ready to rock and roll by the beginning of February for his test, sound, and lights.
Okay.
And curtains. The rigging affects the up and down of the curtains. Everything else is systems, all systems go.
Let's start with the most expensive equipment first, test that, and then go down to the
I didn't set a priority for Mr. Lawrence. I just told him test it all.
ones that are going to cost us the most money, and then work our way down. Okay,
I will
thank you.
pass that. That's all I have, unless anybody has any
Does
questions.
anybody have any questions for Peter? No. Okay, so committee reports. Ann is not here for personnel. Ms. Ciccarelli, personnel is meeting on Wednesday, so nothing else to report at this time. Personnel has mostly been COVID all the time, and all staffing challenges. I assume we're going to continue that dialogue. Curriculum is Kenny.
Curriculum is meeting on Wednesday night as well.
Wednesday as well, I believe. And I'm going to look to Bradley or Mr. Ryan. Has finance met or not? You have?
Yeah, finance met on December 14th. We discussed the cost of sports and uniform replacements. There's a proposal that the committee approved for $42,300 to re-turf the softball field and the baseball field. We discussed the shift rebate. There's a rebate coming from shift, and we decided to apply that to the 21-22 renewal. We started looking at the capital reserve budget for projects that we could include in the 21-22 budget. And there's an architectural firm looking in to see if some of those projects could be included in the state install program, which the state would cover 80% of those projects if they were approved.
Okay, 80%? Mike, just a quick question. The re-turf, actual turf, or just because they're not turf now, right?
It's sod.
Okay.
It's not actual.
Natural.
Yeah.
Natural grass and things, okay.
Yeah.
Just to clarify, there's improvements to the JV softball and varsity fields and the baseball JV and varsity fields with the infields and the clay and some touch-up work for the outfields.
Okay, understood. Okay, great, thank you. Thanks, Mike. Any additional questions for Mike or Bradley on finance? No. Okay, so moving over to liaison reports, I'm going to give one for the borough on a meeting I attended for the town hall on Thursday. Connor, can you just bring this down a little bit? And while we're doing that, does anybody else have any additional liaison reports? Michelle, yours is similar to mine. No boosters, performing arts, I don't have one. Education Foundation, Lotta? Nope. Matt, Recreation PTO, okay. No? Okay.
Joe, we skipped policy.
Oh, we did skip policy. Oh, I'm sorry, Mike, you're right.
It's okay.
Sorry about that. Any policy items? Did you guys meet? I'm sorry.
Yeah, there were a couple. We discussed the schedule for winter break.
The schedule what? I'm sorry.
Winter break.
Thank you.
We said in terms of if school is in session, that the board would also have to meet in person as well. If we were asking students to come in into the school, that we would also, as a board, show up to the board meetings rather than do a virtual meeting.
Great.
And we discussed winter athletics, and we didn't make a decision on that. There was only a couple of us at the meeting, so we thought it would be best to table that conversation for the full board.
Okay, perfect. Yep, we could talk about that since it's legal and liability. Thank you, Mr. Ryan, on the policy and planning. I apologize for that. It's really just buying time to get the screen down. So just a quick update from the borough liaison position, which Mrs. Ciccarelli will be taking this over after this final report. But on last Thursday, January 7th, the Chatham Borough held a town hall to talk about the River Road redevelopment project, but specifically it was the pilot agreement, which stands for payment in lieu of taxes, and the impact to that development on the school district. So I attended, and again, just to cover real quickly, and all this, the first slide here is on the borough website, and you can just go look at it. But the River Road project is for 259 rental apartments. They are broken down into 1 and 2 bedroom, and some of them are designated for affordable housing. And just to be clear, every municipality in the state of New Jersey has to comply with this mandate. So this is nothing that the borough is, saying we should do this because it's fun. It's because it's mandated, and every municipality will have to do it. Every school district within those communities will be impacted. They had an expert consultant help them out with the impact to the schools, a gentleman named Robert Powell, and he broke down, based on the apartments and the type of development, he said there would be about 46 students coming from River Road, and nobody's going to really split hair on the numbers. It's not going to be 5, it's not going to be 100, it's probably not going to be 46 every single year, but that's as good a number as any. He broke it down by the following grades. The only reason I went on the call was to briefly share with the Borough Council that just analyzing the building capacity or simply enrollment numbers doesn't always capture all of the expenses involved in educating children. So they don't take into account any of the special services or potential increase of buses and things like that. So the 46 students, we may have room for them in the building, but there could be additional expenses. And also, Dr. Powell's report also doesn't take into consideration, because that was not his job. His job was only to look at River Road, but it doesn't take into consideration all of the other projects. Are you on slide 2, Mike? Thanks, sorry. It doesn't take all into consideration the other projects going on in town, and I've listed them out there. So there's River Road and Post Office Plaza in the borough, and then in the township there's the Charlie Brown property, the Arbor Green, which is also called the skate park, the Dixie Dale properties, and also Noe Pond, which was just recently sold in a private sale. So the school district has to be concerned with all of those projects in totality. We can't really look at one in isolation, and the goal is obviously to not negatively impact the school district with all these developments. So I had just mentioned to the council, I just wanted to point out that the report itself doesn't tell the whole picture, and it's not possible to really project out what the exact financial impact will be. For example, if one student comes from that development that requires an out-of-district placement, that could be $100,000 each year from the time the student is 3 years old until they're 20 years old. So over time, that could be $1.7 million. And that expense is not captured by just looking at the functional capacity of a building or strict enrollment numbers. And an out-of-district placement may seem not likely. It's currently only 1% of our population now, but it's possible, and it's even more possible when you think about how many students are going to be onboarding at the same time or within the same 5-year period because of the number of projects. So all of that has to also be taken into consideration. It's also far more likely that some of those students may need some specialized services within the district. For example, one paraprofessional in current budget dollars costs about $29,000 a year. 5 years from now, that may be $30,000, $35,000. So that is a much more likely scenario. And I also wanted to point out that students' needs change over time. So if a student enrolls into the 4th grade and they live in the River Road development, 4th grade they're fine, go along for 5-6 years, and in high school, 5 or 6 years later, now they're into a township building, now they develop some sort of anxiety or depression. That's not going to be captured in the report by Dr. Powell. So it's just not possible to project exactly the number that the financial impact, but we wanted to just make the borough aware, and we've been working with the Borough Council, as best we can. It's been a little bit early on, but as best we can in open dialogue. But if there's expenses that incur, they have to be absorbed by the operating budget. And the only way to cover some of those is to either cut programs, not replace retiring teachers, which would increase class sizes, or if all of the residents in the both towns said, hey, you know what, we need to raise taxes to pay for X, Y, or Z, then that would be a third way to increase some of the revenue into the school. So our only ask to the borough was that they keep the school district in mind and include some type of recurring revenue to ensure that the district is not negatively impacted. And they have said all along that, they're not looking to do anything that would hurt the district, and, we're going to have to all work together and row in the same direction. And Dr. Powell and Dr. LaSousa have met at least on one or two occasions, so we're hoping this is going to continue to be an open dialogue and look at some of the other districts that have already put a pilot. Madison has a pilot, and the Madison School District gets some money from that agreement with their town. I think it's a percentage of the payment. So it was mostly just to have an open dialogue with the borough and ensure that they know that just looking at the numbers alone isn't going to give us a true financial picture. It may be an annual discussion, it may be a percentage of the payment. We're going to have to work that out with the SBIRC. So that was, again, I just went on the call just to make sure that they're aware of how a school district functions, how the budgeting works, and how the students' needs change over time. So I gave you all a copy of, these were just my notes
Thank you, Jim.
from that meeting.
I have a couple of follow-up questions, if that's okay.
You have follow-up questions?
I do. I don't understand, not an expert on this, how these pilot works. The way our taxes work as homeowners, we get an assessment based on the school budget. The way the pilot works is that the borough just guarantees us a certain amount of money. Is that right or no?
I'm not an expert in this either.
Yeah.
But pilots, the traditional pilot, the way it works is pilot stands for payment in lieu of taxes. So it's a mechanism used by municipalities to incentivize developers to develop properties that otherwise wouldn't be developed. And usually, historically, they run a 30-year frame, and 95% of the payment goes to the municipality, 5% to the county, 0 to the school district. So I think what Jill raised on the call was there are agreements in other municipalities and other places bring the school district into the process, whereas by law the school district does not have to be involved. It does not have to get any kind of payment. A municipality can simply make the agreement with the developer, and the municipality gets the 95%, county gets 5%, and the school district, they're not obligated to include the school district in any kind of payment.
Okay, so so any increases, the way that it would, I guess, historically have been said is that the school district just absorbs the number of students.
Correct.
Okay. And I guess I'd like to state for the record, we've had a terrible experience with demographers in the past in terms of how predictive they've been in terms of school participation at, so I would question aggressively how accurate these numbers would be in terms of saying, for this project. I don't know this person, so I guess I'm concerned of the structure that's being proposed in terms of, about how negatively it will impact the school district.
Understood. Yeah, my meeting with Dr. Powell, was very productive. I felt like I think he seemed expert and experienced in the whole area and understood all of the nuances of school funding, how the tax levy restrictions work for boards of education. I thought I was very impressed by his acumen. So I think it seemed to me that the borough council has found a pretty solid and expert person to help guide through the process, and he understood and acknowledged all of the challenges that school districts typically face in general, and then also when it comes to pilot arrangements.
And I don't want to say that we're Chatham exceptionalists, but I think the demographers that we've used in the past have also come very highly qualified, and whatever unique characteristics that this town has had to have, exponential growth over the last 15 years, is a reflection of the school district. And I guess I just want to say that we should have those caveats in, because it is just a prediction, and knock on wood, the recession-proofness of this area has been exhibited over the last 20 years, and and I think that it concerns me that that there's not a linkage of the payments that are going to be as it relates to the school district.
I mean, the potential financial exposure is unlimited.
Yes,
right?
absolutely. Yeah.
Depending on the services do we have to provide busing, Mike, from River Road to any of our schools? I don't know the distance.
That's the other thing we should be talking about is any project on River Road is going to affect the building that has first student in it right now. If they have to vacate, we have to go outside to get more transportation, and that's going to increase our cost dramatically if we have to get a bus company from out of town to come in here to bus our students.
Are we obligated to bus from that location, like say to the high school or to the middle school?
No, we do bus off of River Road, but I don't think at that location, Peter, you have to correct me if I'm wrong. I think it definitely, there's no busing to the high school. I don't know about the middle school. There might be busing to the middle school.
That's not what I'm talking about. I'm
I know.
talking about
I
first student not being there.
Yes, I understand. Yeah.
The River Road, the proximity of where they're doing the development between, we'll call it, the River Grill and Watchung Avenue is a non-busing to the high school because it's less than 2.5 miles. And I believe it's just slightly less than 2 miles to Washington. I am not sure about the distance to the middle school or to Lafayette. That I don't remember, but I know the high school is less than 2.5. So I'm going to go on a limb and say we may need to bus to Lafayette and potentially the middle school.
Okay. I mean, it's premature. I just was curious.
What Mr. Ryan is talking about,
Yeah.
I guess, is Phase 2 of River Road, where last year the Borough Planning Board offered the reprieve to First Student that they are supposed to vacate by August of 2021. So First Student is actively looking for an alternate location, which if more than 5 miles from the current location will cause us to rebid routes and, extensively change or most likely increase our transportation costs.
Right. And that property will probably be developed as well, the First Student property.
Correct. Down the line that will be, and I don't know the full extent of what other properties will be taken over, including the First Student property.
Sure. But each municipality is, obviously concerned about fulfilling their mandate. The school district has to be concerned with all of it, all of that going on. And these are 30-year agreements. These are not just 5-year agreements. A pilot is a 30-year run where those property are paying a payment to the municipality and not paying property taxes. Again, from this staying in our lane, we're just concerned with the impact that it might have on schools. And Lud, I hear you on the numbers, but I agree with Dr. LaSousa. Dr. Powell has a tremendous amount of experience. We don't know what the number is going to be. Again, I don't think it's 5, and I don't think it's 100, and I don't think it's going to be 46 exactly in any particular year, but in the ballpark. But until people move in, we won't know. But my only goal for that meeting was to say, hey, we're going to need some type of recurring revenue. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know how much that is. I'm hoping that Dr. LaSousa and Dr. Powell and some of the experts will kick that around further. I just didn't want any scenario where somebody said, hey, you never mentioned that. You never told us that there'd be a negative impact. You never asked for recurring revenue. I'm raising my hand now and saying we're asking for recurring revenue. That was my only goal, to talk on the meeting to make sure that at every opportunity we raise our hand and say, hey, wait a second. This could have an impact beyond the capacity of a building. Just because there's seat available doesn't mean it's that we can cover it in our operating budget. So that was really my only goal at this juncture. More to follow. Any other comments or questions on that? Nope. Thank you for listening again. And this PowerPoint I didn't present. These were just my notes when I was talking last Thursday. So
Thank you for going, and thank you for sharing with us.
Oh, sure thing. I just, Peter, if you could just include them, since I wrote them up, if anybody's looking at the meeting later, at least they saw what we talked about. So more to follow on that. Okay, so no additional liaison reports. I would make a motion to move the minutes of, there's no date here, of the last meeting. Oh, December 7th, I'm sorry.
I believe I have to abstain.
That's it. Just Sal, Peter? Okay, so the rest. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Duly noted, passes 4-0.
Excellent, thank you. So we have our first opportunity for public commentary. A hearing of the citizens during the public commentary section of the agenda is an opportunity for any member of the public to be heard about issues which are or are not topics scheduled for the current meeting. To help facilitate an orderly meeting and to permit all to be heard, speakers will be asked to limit their comments to a reasonable length of time. If you could sign in and introduce yourself, that would be fantastic. We appreciate that. Orderly line, though.
Hello, my name is Betsy Long. I am the CEA co-president and a biology teacher at the high school. Candy Hull and I are here this evening to thank the Chatham community on behalf of CEA and Brian Erb for the tremendous support for the Ganella Erb family's quest to find a bone marrow match for Jackie this weekend. Thank you to everyone who came and swabbed. Thank you to the staff and students who volunteered and decided to keep going to almost 4 p.m. to swab every person who wanted to be registered, to the Key Club and NHS for helping assemble the swab kits, and to the more than 1,000 people who were so patient with us through the process. And a huge thank you to Ceriso Kitchen, Sunny's, and Hickory Tree for supporting the event and the family. We want to thank you both as the administration and board members in supporting CEA's event, but also as individuals, united in a cause to help one of our own. Along with Gabby Morales and the Be the Match team, we swabbed 1,100 participants on Saturday. Using the hashtag TeamJackie, Jackie, people requested between Tuesday and Sunday over 1,000 more kits to come by mail. We encourage people who have not yet participated to please request a kit by mail, especially those between 18 and 44, by texting Team Jackie to 61474. We'd like to thank Gabby, Lauren Hero, and the other Be the Match volunteers who helped us manage the event. I also want to take a second to thank Candy Hull, our CEA Pride chairperson, who continues to amaze me with her dedication and tireless work to bring our community together. I asked Brian tonight what he wanted us to convey on his behalf. First, Jackie, Lauren, and Brian are so touched, grateful, thankful for the outpouring of support we have all shown them. They're in good spirits considering the circumstances and are ready to fight. Team Jackie did not finish its mission this weekend. It will be a long fight for the Ganella Erb family, and Brian says this is just the beginning. We invite you to keep fighting with us. For a week that was so wrought with anger and sadness in our country, this community, Chatham, showed us that at the end of the day, our shared humanity is something to treasure. Thank you for the outpouring of love, Chatham, and continue to love one another.
Prayers for Jackie.
It was a fantastic event. Thank you, Betsy. My only complaint was when I got to the door, Connor Henderson, who was directing traffic, he said, "Oh no, you have to go to the 44 and older line."
Me too.
I tried to sneak in on the other side, and he said, no, back it up. But it was a fantastic event, and Chatham shows up all the time in spite of our differences. You make a call, we'll be there. So thank you. I won't forget that, Connor.
Good evening, Bill Heap. Happy New Year. And you are to be congratulated once again for keeping everything together. I can't say that enough. I'm here with my JC hat on, in case you haven't noticed. I would like to report that despite some challenging circumstances, the sort of same circumstances that everybody else is facing, we managed to have a reasonably successful tree sale. The shortage was real this year. We only managed to get about 3/4 of our order, and our longtime supplier, longtime being 40 years, cut us off on October 1st without notice, so we had to scramble. We managed to find trees, and as a result, we were actually sold out the second week in December, which was a record. The shortage was highlighted in the Wall Street Journal in a front page article. They noted that noble firs, which are a Pacific variety Christmas tree, were going for as much as $2,500 in Hong Kong. So maybe it's time for us to pack up our trailer and go to Hong Kong for a foreign adventure. We introduced some contactless payment methods. We had a delivery service. I think we generally ran a safe event. It was an outdoor event, and as far as I know, we weren't labeled a super spreader. There are a lot of people to thank, especially, first and foremost, the members of the community. I never, ever, ever cease to be amazed at how generous people of Chatham are. They always come through. I wouldn't live in any other town. There are others to thank as well, especially Paul Dannenberg, past president of the Key Club, who came home and helped us tremendously. He set up the Venmo account, he helped us on social media, helped us with the setup and so forth. We had the Troop 8 Boy Scouts and the Troop 28 Boy Scouts and Girl Scout Ventures crew. They helped us with setup and provided manpower. Lastly, I would like to thank Owen Trupo, who is here tonight. I have money. As you can tell, Owen is a man of some style. He brought much needed class to the operation. He helped us with the Venmo and the social media and the setup, and also scheduling of the manpower. We couldn't do it without him. So I have a check here for the Key Club in appreciation. I'd like to thank him and all of the Key Club members for their service. And here's a fun fact. Once upon a time when Owen was known as Little Owen, my daughter babysat for the Trupos, who live right around the corner. When you can say things like that, you know you're getting old. Here you go, Owen. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Bill.
Thank you very much, Mr. Heap, and on behalf of all of our club's members, officers, and advisors, I thank you very much. It is by no means an exaggeration when I say that this is our members' favorite event. In the 2 years that I've been coordinating Key Club's volunteers at the Christmas tree sale, I've always been amazed by the number of volunteers whenever I post sign-up shifts for this sale. And this year was no exception, as I received many questions concerning when there would be more shifts. This year especially, it was difficult for us as a club to find in-person service events for our members, and so we're very thankful to the JCs for the opportunity we had to help out in such great capacity. In fact, now that the tree sale is over, I am looking for more in-person events, and we're not really sure what we can do. On that note, if anyone is looking for volunteers, please always feel free to reach out. The money received will be used to help finance our outreach meal packing event. Due to COVID, we did not hold one in April of 2020, but we do hope that the situation will be well enough in hand by the spring that we can hold one. The meals are then donated to food banks throughout the state, and since over the past 5 years, we have made over 130,000 meals. Providing we are able to hold our event this spring, we will hopefully make an additional 50 to 60,000, bringing the total to 180,000 over 5 years. JCs have helped us to make these meals in an incredible way, and so we are very thankful to them. I do think that on this occasion, the words of President Kennedy's 1963 Thanksgiving Proclamation are most pertinent. As we express our gratitude, we must never forget that the highest form of appreciation is not to utter words, but to live by them. Taking these words to heart, I do very much expect next year's Key Club officers to continue to support an event that we are so thankful for, and I also very much look forward to continue helping the JCs on my own time on vacation from college during the Christmas of 21 and beyond to give back to an organization that gives so much. So once again, I do express my greatest thanks to the JCs on behalf of our advisors, officers, and members, and I believe I can speak for both myself and all of the members when I say that I look forward to many more years at the Chatham JC's Christmas tree sale. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Owen. Well done, thank you. Are there any additional public commentary? No? Did anybody on this board ever think Bill Heap would utter the word Venmo? He's so proud of his flip phone. He's talking Venmo with his flip phone. Excellent. Well, thank you, Owen. I appreciate it.
He's about a nickel away from Facebook, Twitter,
Yeah.
MySpace.
You're almost there, man.
Did I say MySpace?
You're this close to social media.
Okay.
Excellent. Thank you again. Thank you, Owen. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Betsy. So just moving on now to the action items, and then we'll get right over to board business to talk about the calendars. Again, the agendas are posted over the weekend on Friday, so we have had an opportunity to look at them. So if we go through them quickly, it's because we've already looked at them. Michelle, do you mind moving personnel?
I move action items A1 through 15 on the regular agenda and A3 through 22 on the addendum.
Okay, excellent. And I noticed that we have a retirement here at the top of the sheet. Mike, do you want to touch on that?
Sure, yes. You can see Vin D'Elia, our Assistant Superintendent of Student Support Services, is calling it a career. If you ask any group of superintendents which position in a district is the most thankless and demanding, it's going to be Director of Special Services every time. It's a very challenging, very emotional, and just a very difficult position to take on. And I can tell you, when Vin was hired in 2010, I think we had a preschool program and one program at Washington Avenue School for some of our students needing the most support. Right now we have multiple programs at our K through 3 levels. We have programs at Lafayette, middle school, high school. When Vin came, we didn't have a supervisor of special education programming. We didn't have a behaviorist in the district. We didn't have dedicated counseling staff at every school. We didn't have a student assistance counselor at the middle school. I could just rattle them off and rattle them off. So it's been a decade, honestly, of investing an enormous amount of time and energy and resources, supported, of course, by all the boards of education during that time, in enriching and diversifying the programs that we have available for all of our students. And, you know, to just kind of summarize it, I guess, Vin is leaving it better than he found it, in my view. And on top of that, he's been a confidant and a just critical member of the leadership team in the district. So I called him earlier tonight. He wasn't able to be here, but we wish him all the best, and I personally feel a great degree of gratitude toward all that he's done in the district. We do have a personnel committee meeting on Wednesday night. We will discuss in detail the process for going out and securing Vin's replacement, and we won't waste any time doing that. We want to get on the hop because it's a position that is critical, and we want to do everything we can to secure the successor as soon as possible and by the end of this school year. So stay tuned on that, but that's upcoming at the meeting on Wednesday night.
Yeah, those will be tough shoes to fill. Dr. D'Elia has made invaluable contributions to the district and students, and I don't know if the average bear knows it, but there's probably, correct me where I'm wrong, Mike, 700, north of 700 kids that receive special services inside a year. My 3 kids included. In some capacity, they each had some assistance, and in some years I didn't even know it because it was just blended into their program, and all that's as, you know, Dr. D'Elia's leadership and ensuring that every kid gets what they need. whether they're classified or not, they still receive special services or whatever it is that they need for a year, a month, 5 years, 10 years. So I think a lot of it goes unnoticed, what Vin and his team does on a daily basis. We're going to miss him. And I know he would have preferred to leave earlier, but after the pandemic, he stuck in there with us, which, he didn't have to, but it tells you what kind of guy he is.
Yes, he had intended on the conclusion of last school year, but because we were in such a state of flux, he didn't want to abandon his team of people, and I had kind of asked him if he would consider getting us through at least the end of the calendar year, which he has done, and now, this spring, hopefully, we'll bring it all to closure and find a replacement who will also be excellent and contribute to the district moving forward.
Thank you. We appreciate his efforts and staying in there with us. So does anybody else have any questions on any of the personnel items? Nope. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Duly noted, A1 to 13, addenda items 3, 4, and 14 to 22, passed 6-0.
Okay, there you go. Moving over to Finance and Facilities, Mr. Smith, would you take us home from there?
It doesn't work, but I'd like to move Finance and Facilities agenda items B1 to B13 for vote.
I'll second.
It also looks like there's donation on there, right?
Number 8.
And number 7. Right? So just wanted to highlight number 7, the E.J. Smeltz Scholarship Fund set up by Lee Aaron S. Izzo in memory of an exceptional alumnus of Chatham High School. E.J. Schmeltz in the amount of $8,000, that's a donation, and also there was a 3D printer donated, a new Tinkerline Ditto Pro 3D printer valued at $1,900 from Scientific Micro Mark in Berkeley Heights, New Jersey.
Excellent. Thank you, Bradley. And EJ was a student here, and he had joined the military and died as part of his military service. Any additional questions on finance?
I can't let it go, Jill, because EJ was one of my students my first year in Chatham. Greatest kid you'll ever meet, and he was accepted to the Air Force Academy, and the summer after he graduated from Chatham, was in a training session and had a cardiac episode, and the AED didn't function properly, and he passed on at the place. A devastating tragedy, and one of the greatest kids I ever taught.
Thank you, Mike. I did know him as well. Peter?
Sure, agenda items B1 through B13. Mr. Arnick?
Yes.
Ms. Clark?
Yes.
Ms. Kenny?
Yes.
Yes. I'll take that as a yes. Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
And Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Agenda items passed 6-0.
Great, thank you. Moving over to curriculum, Lotta?
Yes, I'd like to move action items C1 to C2 for vote.
A second.
Well, I'm not going to approve.
You're
I'm
going to
not
pull
going to
off
move.
3?
I'm not going to put the calendar since it's still under discussion. I did C1 to C2.
Oh, I'm sorry.
only.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. So we can't really talk about those too much because they're all HIB related. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Duly noted, passed 6-0.
Thanks. And Peter, could you add C3 to next meeting's agenda?
Sure.
Thank you. Mr. Ryan, over to you for policy.
Thank you. I'd like to move agenda item B1 on the regular agenda for vote.
Any additional questions for Mike or anybody on policy? Mike Ryan? Nope. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Duly noted, passes 6-0.
Excellent. Okay, so now we're going to move over to board business. If we could just talk about the calendars for a minute. So the one calendar, Dr. LaSousa, that we would like to explore is possibly modifying calendar number 2 and adding a full week February break And where you're picking up those days is by being in school during teacher convention, so November 4th and 5th, but of course allowing any teacher that wants to go to the convention to go to the convention.
Yes, and then adding 2 days on the end of the year to make up the, if you're talking about a full week off in February, I don't know what the thinking was.
So the
Well, I
last
guess
day
I'd
would
like
be
to
the
also
14th.
throw out possibly our usage of snow days then. In light of our infrastructure that we've improved with COVID in terms of remote learning, is it necessary to have these many days as full-on school days?
As of now, you're not permitted to, you're only permitted to use virtual days if you're in a public health crisis. And so if the crisis ends, you can't just call a virtual day if you have a blizzard outside. You have to call a snow day.
But if there's a state of emergency because of this,
It has to extend it beyond 3 days. So
So-
the first 3 days of any public emergency, you need to not have school.
and is that a public school limitation rather than a private school
Yes,
limitation?
well, everything is public school.
Okay, so the
Limited.
private schools do not have that limitation?
Private schools don't need 180 days of school. Private schools can do anything they want.
Go ahead, rub it in.
It's true.
On calendar 2, if we were going to bump out and use the convention days in addition to taking a look, then would the last day of school and graduation be on a Monday?
Yes.
Okay, I feel like we're going to lose a lot of people.
hmm
So I think we have to be mindful of that. I think. But
Those are only,
if
they only
snow
happen
days.
if you have
can't bank
if
on
you
them.
have snow days left.
Right.
You can't bank on those.
Eliminating which one, Lada? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
The snow days, the possible snow days in May before Memorial Day, but they clarified that that's not possible.
Would it be an option in February instead of have a longer break? Like not a full week, but instead of just having Monday off, maybe do Friday, Monday, Tuesday, or, and we've done that in the past, or look at Monday, Tuesday, I don't, just instead of just having the one day.
Correct, yeah, maybe.
Yes,
Yeah.
we can do
So
that.
that you
We will
can
lose,
avoid that falling on the Monday.
we will lose students in that if we do
Yeah.
that too. In other words, people will book vacations and be gone the week.
I'm pretty confident if we have school on one day, on a Monday in June, a half day, you're going to have no one, except for your class of 2022 graduates. I mean, so I think we have to kind of look at where I don't know, I'm just saying.
Or just make the February break not a full week, but partial week.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
We've also been trying to avoid graduation on a Friday to avoid interrupting the Friday Sabbath or, difficulty for people to get here or get away from graduation. We haven't always been able to avoid it, but we've always talked about trying to avoid a Friday.
Mike, would you consider in either of the calendars starting school on Monday, August 23rd, or starting the teacher staff days so that you could start school one day earlier? Rather than start school on a Thursday, the 26th, start it on a Wednesday in August?
Yeah, that's calendar number 3.
But I was thinking if you were altering calendar 2, that would give you an extra day.
If you look at the break in February on calendar number 3,
Yeah.
and then you tweak those convention days if that's something that people are interested in, that could kind of, it's just an even swap. And then keep the dates on calendar 2 in terms of the end of the year the same.
And where would the beginning of the year be, Michelle? Sorry.
I think the beginning of the year on calendar, I can't even see what calendar I'm looking at, calendar 2, which is that one that starts on the 31st or
Calendar 2 starts on the 24th.
The 26th is the first day for students on calendar 2.
On calendar 2, okay, so calendar,
But we might be able to pick up a day there, as Peter's saying, just back it
Yeah.
up one day.
I'm sorry, I think anyone who has an issue with starting early this year, these kids have not been into school consistently. We need to bring kids in, we need to get them back in school.
Yeah.
We need to go to school. We need to start the day, and we need to eat lunch at school, and we need to learn how to walk in school again in a hallway and do our jobs again. So I think for this year, normally I'm the one fighting, don't go back in August. Now I'm like, bring them back.
We've lost so much time.
Yeah, bring 'em back.
I mean, we've done okay with in-person instruction, but
Yeah,
it's been, a challenge. So if we have to pick up the days at the beginning of the year, then that's where they get picked up. And if the teachers hate giving up convention, I mean, really, 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 really hate it, then so be it. We, keep the convention days and work the calendar. If they show up at your door with knives and pitchforks and tarred and feather, then it may not be worth it. It may be entertaining, but not worth it. We just wanted to throw it as an option to put those 2 days back in as productive in-school days.
That's in calendar 2, right?
Calendar 2, but we're just talking about November 4th and 5th, putting those back as in-school teaching days and picking up an extra day in August and trying to create a full week in February off for everybody, students, teachers.
That's the week of the 21st to the 25th, right?
And if teachers have planned, significant life events over teacher convention, we'll just have to, make accommodations.
Right, but that is, right, they're specifically for the teacher convention. So, and
Okay.
I think there's,
Also considering, we don't know yet what's going to happen with ESY in the summer, my vote would be for calendar number 3, because usually if we end ESY in the first week of August, there's like 4 weeks of downtime before you go to school again. So my preference would be calendar number 3.
So starting as early as
possible in August.
to avoid additional downtime.
Yep.
One other thing I want to just consider about that November date, many of our current juniors have not been able to tour any colleges. Colleges are closed. You're on your own, to go and look virtually or walk around a campus by yourself. If colleges are open where students have the ability to go visit, that's a prime week, that New Jersey Teacher Conference weekend is prime for students. And I think we have to take into consideration the current climate and how we can afford these kids to be able to look at colleges and to be able to get themselves out there for interviews or whatever they might need. And that's typically a time, anyone who's had kids who've applied to college, that you do kind of look at schools.
I talked through this with Jill earlier, and I think that that is valid, but it's one grade out of the other 13.
What I was going to say is that we need to be able to allow those kids to.
Well, I think there are days that the students are able to take without penalty.
Right, but the amount of days are not going to account for what they're going to. Typically, you spread your visits out in the spring of junior year, some over the summer, and these kids are going to be jammed in the fall. I'm just saying it's 1 year for sure, but there needs to be some flexibility in terms of attendance for the class
if you
of
did
2022.
choose calendar 3, like Mike suggests, if you kept the convention days, you could just elongate the end of the year by 3 days and finish on June 10th instead of June 7th, and you'd have the whole week off in February.
Yeah,
Because there's already an extra day in February.
well, for me personally, I think the choppiness of November and the 2 days is also another reason that I would
Fair.
advocate getting rid of the teachers' day, the teacher convention days, and make them in school. Except for the consideration of juniors but at the same time they have all fall. I'm sorry, they have all springs to go visit as well.
Yeah, but I'm talking about these kids who are currently juniors too, right now. The
But
kids
they'll
will
be seniors then, and by then they'll have either have already applied to schools.
They will and they won't. You know, it's going to be, a lot of these schools are extending because you haven't been there. I know because I have a junior.
So-
We're getting correspondence.
Saying that,
There's-
or what are they doing? Are they extending? the-
Everything's flexible. You know, they're not saying for next year that this is hard and fast, but I know a lot of the November deadlines were pushed this year. Saying, because they want these kids to come, you know, if they can. This year they couldn't, but they're saying, you know, they're encouraging, hopefully things will open up. Listen, I'm not talking about my own situation. I'll take care of myself and my
No,
kids.
no, I
I'm
mean-
talking about the 300 kids plus the juniors. And I also think we need to take into consideration the teachers and what their intentions are to attend the conference. And I know this year, nobody thought any teachers would go, and it was virtual, and many, many teachers did go, and it was very beneficial. And I think before we make a drastic change and build in a longer break in February, I think it's something to consider. That's all I'm saying. We can vote on the calendar of the next time, but those are my 2 cents.
At the end of the day, we have to get to 180. I mean, we really can't have both. You can't have a full week off in February without giving up days someplace else, whether they're at the beginning of the year. And I agree, you know, Mr. Ryan makes a good point, and Michelle, as a teacher, we need to get the kids back into school and back into a routine. I mean, we've had our kids in person, but it's not been the same. And the more ground we can make up, the better.
Do
So
you have
what
a
is the direction that we want to ask Dr. LaSousa to go in? A lean toward calendar 3, with or without the November days?
My only concern with either 2 or 3 would be how many students we're going to lose that first week.
The first week in February?
First week in August.
In August.
What? Yeah, that's what I'm saying, yeah. I would think a lot of them probably won't be around, but that would be my only concern.
Well, that's why we have to decide on the calendar
Yeah,
now.
Absolutely.
I just have a quick question. When does preseason, like would this impact, our start date is not going to impact when they start competing, right? So let's say preseason was hypothetically to start typically around the 16th. Is that usually the date?
Of
Or-
August.
or
Of August?
earlier.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
just throwing like for soccer, football, right?
Yes,
Football's
yeah.
one. So we have any of our student athletes band, they're all kind of back in action-ish around the 16th already. Does that impact those preseason out? You know how they're able to compact them and get more in, or can you just roll preseason into the next week after school?
Yes, I think we can do that.
You can?
Yeah.
You'd get enough hours and, okay.
So Mike, can you see if there's, over the next week or so, if there's significant backlash about removing the convention days from the staff, and then, you know, based
Sure.
on that feedback, make those in-person days or leave them as is. But I think the goal here is to get students back as early as possible. Given the year we've had, K-5 has been back without A/B cohorts, but the middle school and high school have been only half at a time. So we really need to get the students back as quickly as possible, and their entire grade together. I don't think things will be normal in September, but they'll be more normal than they were this September. I don't envision that we're going to get rid of the masks anytime soon, or the desk shields, but at least we can maybe get the entire school back in the building at the same time.
Well, I think that coming in earlier makes sense pre-pandemic.
Yes.
It's the days after Memorial Day that are the most challenging for teachers to keep kids focused and have kids remain motivated and not distracted. So one of my reasons for wanting to move the calendar earlier in the last several years has been to try to minimize the number of days we have after Memorial Day, because that's just the time of the year where learning is not as just engaged as it is in other times of the year. So I think Mr. Ryan's suggestion is a very good one, just from pre-pandemic and without even thinking about the disruption to students this year. It's a solid one educationally. So I'll do what you suggest and get some feedback, and then bring another calendar too. Regardless of whether we go with 3 or 2, school would start that same week anyway, whether it's the 23rd or 26th. So and that's directionally where we've been going. This year we were supposed to start students before September. We just needed a week to get everything together because we were having such staffing challenges. And the year before that, we had staff come back in August. So we've been heading in this direction for the educational reasons behind it, and now it's probably even more, important to do given what we've been all dealing with for the past year now.
And I believe in, again, Michelle's the only educator at the table, but your time in August will be quality time. The time in beginning of June or end of June is not going to be quality education time. And again, I know we were going to do a presentation last March, but New Jersey's an outlier in how late we start. And I don't want to say we're behind, but, Massachusetts gets a lot more education time in before they have to take any of the standardized tests. New Jersey is 3 or 4 weeks after that. So we are an outlier in New Jersey. Again, I don't know if we can queue up that presentation again, maybe not with the speaker, but maybe you could just plagiarize a couple of his slides. I'm sure he won't mind. You're a buddy of his. Buy him a beer. But at least get over some of the, maybe just highlight the points as to what the value to starting earlier is. It's not just because we want, it's a whim. There's science behind it. And we sat through that presentation when people were allowed to gather at the last school boards, right, Mike?
Mm-hmm.
And it was compelling. It was a compelling argument for starting the school year a week or so earlier. So, Mike LaSousa, I know we bantered around a lot. So, do you have enough direction?
Yes.
To move forward?
Yep.
Excellent. Okay. Any other conversations or topics on calendars or anything else?
No.
No? Pretty good over here? Okay, excellent. Good dialogue. Thank you, everybody, for contributing. It's not an easy one. But if we can, let's try and get on the following year's calendar after the school year settles down so that people
Yes.
can make plans.
Will
and
do. Yep.
Typically, we have, a calendar out there 2 years in advance. So we have our second opportunity for public commentary. If anybody's interested. No? Okay. Seeing none, right? Okay, excellent. Seeing none. Just a reminder to the board, we have a brief executive session to talk about a student matter. After this, no action will be taken. So then I would like to make a motion to adjourn the public session.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Great, thank you. So no action will be taken. So thank you, everybody. Have a great night. Thank you for showing up. I appreciate it.